Dennis Campbell is a world-renowned big game hunter and conservationist. Just a sample of his beautiful mounted animals are on display here until September 30th. And I am here with Dennis Campbell. He is a big game hunter. That amazes me, Dennis. You know how someone right here from Summerton, born in Sipsey, could be a world-renowned big game hunter. You said your first big hunting trip was, I think from your bios, 1977? Did I get that right?
1977, I went to Wyoming. My dad went with me, as a matter of fact. We went to Wyoming for an elk hunt. And
what a great memory.
Oh, Lord, it is a great memory. You know, I remember it just like it was yesterday. I remember exactly where I shot the elk, and I remember my dad shooting a large elk there as well, and spending the time with him. And I can just see him right now as we're talking. My dad riding a horse, and one of the guys had a .44 Magnum pistol, and my dad's sitting on the horse. You know, he's real tired, late in the day. And this guy he decided he'd shoot what's called a pine grouse. It's just, they're not a very smart bird, but he was going to shoot it for us to eat. So he took that .44 Magnum and he shot that pine grouse, and that horse bucked my dad off. My dad went way up in the air and hit the ground. Anyway, that was just a memory that came into my mind when you asked the question.
Now, your wife has never gone on these hunts, has she?
My wife has gone on the hunts some. Let's see now. She went with me to Africa in 1990. What was it? 96. Went to Zimbabwe. Her and my daughter, as a matter of fact. And then she's gone with me to Alaska, and she loves Spain. We've been to Spain like 5 times together. So she always went with me to Spain.
But actually on the hunt itself?
She hunted in Zimbabwe in 96, but she was not a hunter. She didn't...
She's a shopper.
She was a professional shopper, as a matter of fact. But anyway, she hunted in 96.
Did you teach her to shoot a gun?
I did. Actually, she was a good shot. Yeah, and so was my daughter. They're not big hunters, but they enjoy hunting. My daughter's hunted quite a bit. She shot deer and, oh my goodness, alligator and some other odds.
I think I could shoot an alligator.
Yeah.
What is the contact information, Dennis, for your museum?
You can look at the museum and actually see a video on superslam.org. That's one of our websites. That's the most common one, superslam.org. And our offices, what I'm talking about is GSCO. That's why I've got this shirt on, Grand Slam Club Ovis. We're a nonprofit 501c3 hunting conservation organization, or wildlife conservation organization. And we've given many millions of dollars to...
You're executive director of that, right?
Director since 1990, as a matter of fact. So I've been doing this a long time. But I tell people I was a pharmacist in my first life at Campbell's Pharmacy. And, I still have Campbell's Pharmacy. But I've been doing conservation work full-time since 1995. You asked me a question. I believe in the beginning, in the opening, you asked me a question. You started out by talking about the fact that I've hunted a lot and Walker County boy hunting a lot or whatever. And I wanted to make a comment at that time, and I'll make it right now. All of my adult life, I have been a conservationist, and a lot of people get that confused. They think, well, boy, that man has killed a bunch of stuff. Well, yeah, I guess I have, but I have dedicated my entire adult life to conservation. In 1976, fresh out of college, I graduated in 1975. But in 1976, I became the director for the Alabama Wildlife Federation, which is still going. I'm a life member, but I was a director for several years there. So that's where it all started. And I started the Alabama Whitetail Records book, published 5 different books, developed quite a conservation program for Alabama, and then got involved with wildlife conservation groups, different ones, Safari Club International and Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, different ones. But then and I did that all the way from 76, and then in 1990 is when I took over as executive director for Grand Slam Club at that time, and it was later changed to Grand Slam Club Otis. And I've done that full time ever since, and just love it. When you get up every day of your life and you look forward to going to the office, it's a great thing. I was 65 years old this past January, and I've told people that they say, when are you going to retire? And I can tell you, as long as these legs will carry me, and as long as I have my health, I'll be going to the office because I love what I'm doing, and I know that I'm making a difference. And I don't just to hunt and kill a bunch of stuff.
No.
I much prefer to be known as the conservation mantra Grand Slam Club Otis does. And it's called hunting is the #1 conservation tool. And again, that's a message that's a little difficult to get across. But if animals do not have value, they will not be conserved. So hunters always pay their way, and the hunting dollars amount to a lot of money that goes into conservation. Like when I go to Africa, those animals there are there because they have value, and the local people know that, and they don't just wipe them out. And it's the same way in North America. There's a lot of conservation successes. The wild turkey's one of them, the pronghorn antelope's one of them, and the Thule elk in California is another, and there's a lot more than that. But it's because they have value. So hunting is really the #1 conservation tool. And that's the way I want to be remembered, is as a conservationist. I don't mind being known as a hunter. I don't apologize for that, even in the least, because I know that hunting is the #1 conservation tool. So I do not apologize for being a hunter or a trophy hunter, because I know that I've paid my way, and I've been
giving back and educating, and just like talking about that mountain lion. If you're protecting, right, and you're protecting the deer.
Right, you're keeping the, a lot of people think that animals will just sort of, take care of themselves, but animals become overpopulated, and man is here, and we've populated this earth, and we've changed things, and as long as we're here, we have to be good stewards, and that's what I want to consider myself, as a steward of what God has made, and the Bible's very explicit about that. He gave us dominion over the wild animals of the earth, and with that came the responsibility to be a good steward. And I love God, and I want to do what He would have me do, and I want to do my very best as a steward of the wildlife of this world.
Oh, that is amazing, Dennis. It is amazing. You have done such good work.
Dawson, Yukon Territory, where the gold rush happened. And matter of fact, it's real near Dawson City, Yukon, and that's the Klondike. A lot of people know they know of the Klondike, and anyway, the gold rush happened there. But that particular one, it will be the #1 actually in the Safari Club record book. So it's quite a nice trophy. The Grand Slam is the 4: Dall sheep, stone sheep, bighorn sheep, and desert bighorn sheep. And I think I've taken 4 Dall sheep, 5 stone sheep, 6 bighorn sheep, and 2 desert sheep. So anyway, lots of sheep. There's also one called, it's a subspecies called a California bighorn, and I've actually taken one of those too. And then the Fannin is a subspecies as well, so taking a couple of those. So I like sheep hunting.
Oh my goodness! And
I like to climb mountains.
Well, this frightened me just to read about it. You know, not only do you add to the danger of going into these wild animals and getting near them, but then you add to that the danger of mountain climbing. Now, Dennis, there's just something not quite right about you.
Yeah, I don't know, something clicked in my head. It was a strange phenomenon. And while I was moose hunting, it was difficult hunting at that time of year, and I had to climb way up with a horse, but way up high, and we saw some stone sheep. And that something clicked in my brain that I really wanted to hunt wild sheep. So that was in 1981. So I booked a hunt for the following year, for 1982, and I shot my very first wild sheep, in British Columbia in 1982, and it really got in my blood. And I've now taken well over 50 wild mountain sheep around the world. And then I've taken well over 40 of the goats of the world. All of these animals live in the mountains. But I also played sports in high school, and then even some in college, football and baseball. But baseball, I was a catcher, and I started catching when I was just a youngster, and I played baseball all the way up until in my 20s. And it began the process of really messing my knees up. So all of the mountain hunting, along with being a catcher in baseball, and probably football was a contributor as well, really messed up my knees. And so I thought my life was pretty much over. In about 2010, I went on what I thought was my last sheep hunt in December of 2010 in Colorado, as a matter of fact. And my knees were so bad that I just struggled, and I knew this was the last sheep hunt. And but in March, I had both of my knees replaced at the same time. I had a hip replaced in December after that sheep hunt in Colorado. Had a hip replaced. Then in March, I had both knees replaced, and it's been an amazing success. And
at the same time?
Both at the same time, and I was motivated. 5 months to the day after I had both knees replaced, I climbed a mountain in Siberia, Russia, and shot a Siberian snow sheep. And 5 months to the day after having both knees replaced. So anyway, I knew I was back. My brother David Campbell, who was the coach here, and a lot of people will know him, the coach here in Jasper, and then at Walker High School, and then eventually Sumter Christian School. My brother David has had both of his knees replaced and a hip replaced as well, and the same doctor did it. He didn't do both of his knees at the same time, but he had them done not very far apart. So my brother's done great too. So it changed my life. No, it didn't change my life. It allowed me
to continue
my life. There you go.
I want to tell you, when I walked in this door,
for over 20 years,
the first thing I saw was this lion. Oh my! Usually in the dining room of this beautiful old historic home, Bankhead House, there is a dining room table here, and for these exhibits, it's always laden with these wonderful refreshments. I walked in the door, and the first thing I see is these huge lions. Dennis, tell us about this lion.
This particular lion came from Tanzania, of course, in Africa, and
is that the one that was in the photo on the wall?
It is. I've taken 3 lions, but this one is the one that I'm the most proud of, and you have to work at it. Lions are they can be fairly secretive, around 300 to 400 pounds, between 300 and 400 pounds. So, you know, a Bengal tiger is the largest cat. A lot of people think lions are bigger than tigers, and, of course, the Bengal tiger predominantly comes from India, and they're not huntable now. They were at one point. But anyway,
they're endangered now.
They are endangered, but it's not only that they're not completely endangered in India, but you know, India is pretty much they don't believe in killing animals. The religion that they have. We saw the track, saw it was a nice big male, so we got into blind late in the afternoon, and so we hadn't been there long, and we saw a lioness. So there was a female. So what it was a breeding pair. Anyway, long story short, we saw her feeding, and then finally, right at dusk, he came out of the thick brush, and we were only like 15 or 20 yards from him, and that'll get your blood pumping and the adrenaline flowing. So
I would have been so far away by that time.
You know, it was having the lioness that close to you. You know, they're pretty dangerous too. Well, they're not pretty dangerous. They're as dangerous.
They're a wild animal.
Absolutely. But anyway, we were quite close. So the way you hunt them is you normally bait for them. You can just see them, and I've seen a lot of lions.
Okay. Dennis, this animal is absolutely breathtaking. That had to, I can't imagine being as close as you were to a wild animal.
Yeah, it's pretty special. I would like to point out something since our cameraman is fairly close. I'd like you to notice the black tufts on the ears of the lion, and then also he has a black tuft on I'd call it the elbow of his front legs, and anyway, that's the way they keep up with each other. I saw a documentary, and when they're stalking, they keep up with each other with those black spots moving. And anyway, that's just a characteristic, of a lion. You know, with a big male lion, you always are interested in a nice big mane. And for Tanzania, this one has a good mane. Now, I've shot one in South Africa that has an amazing mane. But, again, this one was pretty special. Pretty special.
Oh, it is amazing. And we understand you have a huge museum in Summerton.
No, it's in Adamsville.
Oh, that's right. It's Adamsville because that's where your pharmacy is. Dennis, what about these?
These came from South Africa and Namibia.
Are they antelope?
Well, they're springbuck antelope. Almost all of the hooved animals in Africa are called an antelope of some sort. But anyway, these are springbuck antelope, and they're different subspecies. And, of course, the white springbuck, the black springbuck, this is the copper springbuck, and then this is the common or the Kalahari springbuck. This particular Kalahari springbuck came from the Kalahari Desert of Namibia. The others came from different parts of South Africa. They're really neat animals. The way they're called a springbuck for a reason. They when they're playing and when they're running, they'll spring.
Kind of jump.
They jump, but they'll all 4 feet hit the ground, and then they'll jump again and jump again. They're a neat animal.
I bet that would be something to see. Yeah. Oh my gosh! And you have your zebra.
That's just one of many. Zebra are pretty neat animals, and I have many zebra rugs. But I wanted to do this one as a pedestal mount, just to show what a pretty special animal a zebra actually is. So they're obviously the horse family, but they can have fairly short legs, but they're still a pretty big animal. They'll weigh my goodness, I guess they'll weigh, a big male might weigh, 800, 900 pounds, or maybe 1,000 pounds. They're a big animal.
Are they found anywhere else other than Africa?
Not really. I think at one time they may have been, a little bit further north, but predominantly just Africa.
Beautiful animal. Well, I mean, the way it's mounted, though.
Okay, they would be taller than this pedestal. So
taller than a man.
The back would be about 5 feet, maybe about 5 feet, and then of course the head would come up. So they're pretty neat.
And what about these are these antelope?
But then
all of these are considered antelope.
Well, that one is an antelope. Then all of a sudden we get into Asia with these next two.
I see.
Yeah. So, and this is that's a mountain animal. That particular one is a mid-Asian ibex, and then this is a Marco Polo argali in the corner.
A Marco Polo.
Yeah. They come from Kyrgyzstan and also Tajikistan, and there's some in Afghanistan, but of course they're not huntable in Afghanistan. I don't think you'd want to go to Afghanistan.
No.
That's probably not the safest place. As a matter of fact, I took one in Tajikistan, literally right on the Afghanistan border. I could see. I was near the top of the mountain, and if I had gone maybe another 1,000 yards, I would have been at the Afghanistan border. So, right along Afghanistan has like a finger of land that goes up. It's called the Walk-On Corridor, and it's in the Walk-On Corridor is where the Marco Polo are found in Afghanistan. So I was literally just over the mountain from there.
And too close. Unfortunately, we've all seen Afghanistan on the news with our poor boys there. It's just been a nightmare. One that fascinates me. Tell me about this animal with all those racks.
Well, this is a caribou. This particular one is quite large. These two parts of the antlers are known as the shovel, and this one is called a double shovel. Sometimes they'll just have one, but this one's pretty special in that it has a double shovel. And then these are called the bay. It's spelled B-E-Z, but it's pronounced bay. But now there are, I think there are 5 different subspecies of caribou. A lot of people look at this and they should think about Santa Claus because, a reindeer and a caribou are the same animal. Caribou live in North America and reindeer are from Asia. But there's the mountain caribou, the barren ground caribou, the central Canadian barren ground caribou, the Quebec Labrador caribou, and then the woodland caribou from Newfoundland. And I've taken all of those. And anyway,
this extra rack up here, what on earth is that?
It's hard to believe, and they grow a new one every year.
Really?
Yeah, they will grow that rack. They'll start growing that rack in like June, May or June, and it's completely finished by the middle of August. All of the deer species, and the caribou is part of the deer family, but all of the deer species, it's called cast their antlers.
They shed them off.
They shed their antlers. It's just the proper terminology is they cast their antlers. So that's shedding of the antlers. So all deer species do that, even whitetails here in Alabama. But anyway, the caribou and a moose, they will shed their antlers, and in probably, January, February, or something like that, then they'll start growing them again, just like the whitetail deer in Alabama. They'll start growing them again, in the spring, April, May, and they will grow this complete rack, a complete new rack in in a matter by the middle of August. Capybara is again the largest rodent in the world, and they live in the water. They like to feed on plants in the water, but it's indigenous to South America. South America does not have that many indigenous big game type animals. They have a couple of pigs. They're called peccaries. Some people call them they also have the name javelina, but they have two. They have a collared peccary and a white-lipped peccary. The white-lipped peccary is almost twice as big, but that's a couple of pigs. A capybara, that's 3. So this was 1984, and then my youngest son is Marcus Saul Campbell. Everybody called him Saul by his middle name, S-A-U-L. But anyway, Saul, I stayed in touch with the people who had bought out the outfit that Cy Ford had, and so we stayed in touch with them, and Saul went back hunting there himself in the early 2000s. I don't remember what year it was, probably 2002. And Saul was able to take a black bear and a mountain goat at the same place that I had hunted in 1984. So, whatever that was, practically 20 years later, my youngest son was able to go back to the same exact place.
Right in Dad's footsteps.
There you go. But Saul passed away in 2007 at the age of 34 years old, and there's a good ending to the story. I have a little grandson that was born 2 years ago. He was 2 years old on May the 2nd of 2016, so he was born in 14. But his name is Charles, and there's a lot of Charleses in our families, both my family and then my wife's husband's family. My name is Dennis Charles. My father was Charles David, and my grandfather was Charles Wesley. But anyway, there's a lot of Charleses in that family. But anyway, my little grandson, his name is Charles Saul, and so they named him after Miriam, is my baby daughter, and she named her first son after Saul. So
that's wonderful.
Charlie, but he's a lot of fun. But Charlie, his name is Charles Saul. So we get to remember every time we look at little Charlie, we get to remember Saul as well.
That's wonderful.
Before, and had gone in the hospital, and they gave him antibiotics and cleared it up. But he got another couple of places on his face and was picking at them, and because he had been in the hospital and he had some other health problems as well, he didn't want to go to the doctor, and he stayed at home too long. And he was supposed to eat with his mother on Friday. They always had lunch together on Fridays, and he didn't call her. So on Saturday we were doing a little project at the office, and I knew that he lived near the office, and my other son and I walked down there and knocked on the door, and he came to the door and opened the door and just was going to fall, and I grabbed him. Anyway, that was on a Saturday, and then he lived until Tuesday. But the sepsis had overcome, the infection had overcome his entire body and shut down his organs. And that's what he actually died from. But the doctor told us when we admitted him that he wasn't going to make it. But I didn't want to believe. I didn't want to believe it.
Actually a sheep.
Yep, that's a mountain sheep. Very, very similar to our Dall sheep, just a different color. It's called a thin horn. There are two thin horns, and those are two thin horns in North America. That's the Dall sheep and the stone sheep. There's actually a fanning sheep as well. That's a subspecies. But so this is a thin horn as well, and there's several of them. There's the Koryak, the Kamchatka, the Okhotsk, the Yakutsk, and the Kolyma, and the Puturana. And so I've hunted all of those. And anyway, they're quite similar. They're quite similar, but they're a mountain sheep. They live in the mountains just like the Dall sheep or the stone sheep of North America.
But the horn, is this a horn?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they're a horned animal. Of course, horned animals don't lose them, and the antlered animals do. Except there's one exception.
Okay.
The pronghorn antelope from the western United States is the only horned animal that loses its horns every year. And they grow it. It's the only one. Pronghorn antelope.
This one, may I touch the horn?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Dennis, it just blends in. It looks like it is furry, but of course it's not.
It
looks furry.
There's something neat about them. You can age them by the horns. These are called age rings. So that's an age ring. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then there's one here that's broomed off 9. So this animal is 9 years old. And that's what's neat about most of the horned animals is you can count the age rings and tell their age. And again, the one on the top.
Oh, yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This one was actually a year older than the other one. So.
And another thing I kind of noticed about this one, Dennis, the inside of the ear is furry.
It's even furry. They live in a. These were taken in early August, but by the 1st of September, their hair will be 2 inches long, and then in the wintertime, it will be 4 inches long. Very thick.
So.
Late in the year, and they have really thick fur.
In preparation for the winter, Nature's Way.
Siberia, everybody knows Siberia is better.